4:57 in the morning. You know this kettle. You've known it all season. A nurse is filling it at the end of a night shift. And 400 kilometers south, in a dark kitchen, its twin sits silent, green dust steady, waiting for 7 o'clock. Today we stay with that light. One house, one family, one full day, dawn to dark, because this is the day the whole season has been walking toward.
And you should know, before we begin, that the nurse and the kettle and the old woman in the south are not three stories. They never were. The nurse is her daughter. The girl with the dashboard is her granddaughter. We told you this season was one connected universe. We meant one family.
Season 3, The New Light. Episode 7, The Last Light. Dawn arrives the way we learned it does, as a handover. The dispatcher steps out of his windowless room and squints at everyone else's sunrise. The nurse rides home through streets someone swept at 5. And on the far edge of the city, a night train slows into a small station, and a 17-year-old steps off with a backpack, a paper bag of oranges, and one small hard drive.
Hold that hard drive in your mind. If you could see time the way machines now see it, you'd see this. Every moment of a day falling like grains of light, and every grain landing somewhere, and every grain kept. Nothing falls unrecorded anymore. That drive holds the family's entire falling sky. Every photograph ever taken of them. Restored, dated, mapped. She finished it last week. She came to give it to her grandmother.
7 o'clock. The kettle reports. The dot glows green. The sensor under the mattress files its quiet all clear. Prakash lets himself in with the spare key. Marigolds today from his garden, because it's Thursday and he always overdoes Thursdays. Amma is 81. This is somewhere around her 30,000th morning. The house has learned the shape of all of them.
By 9, the kitchen smells of cardamom and the teenager has the drive plugged into the old television. Because some gifts have to be given on the biggest screen in the house. And what comes up first isn't the wedding. It's everything. The whole haul of it.
Picture what she built. Every day this family ever recorded. Hanging in the dark like slivers of light. Thousands of them, row after row, receding further than the eye can follow. Baptisms and bus tickets. 3 generations of school uniforms. The monsoon of 78 that took the album. Undrowned, restored, rehung. There is more of Amma's life in that hall than Amma can remember. Sit with that sentence. It has never been true of any human being before this century.
So here it is, the question this whole season has been circling, the one every episode asked in its own accent. The machines remember everything now. The listeners remember what we said. The grid remembers what we used. The archive remembers what we looked like on every Tuesday of our lives. So, when machines remember everything, what will humans choose to remember? Because you cannot live in an archive. You can only visit. Living is choosing.
And choosing is old. Older than every wire in this season. Your great-grandmother owned 9 photographs, and one of them lived in her wallet until the face wore off. That was choosing. The bards who rebuilt burning cities in verse kept the fall of the walls and lost the price of bread. That was choosing. Every gravestone that says beloved instead of listing the tax records. Choosing. The archive is new. The choosing is as old as love.
In the long afternoon, on the porch, the teenager finally shows her the wedding, the render, the courtyard, the rain she taught the machine to put back. Amma watches it the whole way through, hand over her mouth, the way she did the first time. Then she's quiet. Then she says, and this is why this episode exists. Once is enough now. The day lives here. Then she taps the drive. Keep the rain. Lose the rest if you must. Keep the rain.
Pull any thread of this season and you arrive on this porch. The listeners learned our words, so she could speak to a kitchen. The commute died, so her granddaughter could be here on a Thursday. The care shift watches her sleep, so her daughter can watch strangers sleep instead. The night shift holds her ceiling up. It was never 7 separate stories. It was one loom, and today you can see the gold thread that runs through the whole cloth.
At 1 o'clock, her daughter calls from the ward's break room 400 kilometers north and eats lunch with them by video on the porch rail. 20 minutes. 3 people, 2 places, 1 table. Remember what this season said about distance. That distance was the thing that made together possible. Watch them. Together has stopped needing geography at all.
And notice who is still analog. Prakash, the spare key, the marigolds, the man who was simply there within 4 minutes on the night in March. The house has 11 sensors and 1 neighbor, and the season's honest accounting is this. The sensors have never once made tea. There is no cloud service for a neighbor. There is no app for a Thursday. The afternoon stretches the way long afternoons do. And somewhere north, a man we met is waking up for his shift. Tonight, while this porch sleeps, he will hold its lights in his hands the way you'd hold a sleeping bird. He doesn't know this family exists. He has kept their lights on for 19 years. The season keeps insisting. So once more, millions of strangers holding each other up by name unknown.
So let the season answer its question in the last light of its last day. We were afraid the machines would take our memory. They took something else. They took the fear of forgetting. And underneath that fear, all along, was the real work, unautomatable, unchanged since the first fire. Deciding what a life meant. The archive can hold every day you ever lived. Cannot tell you which one to keep in your wallet. Everything can now be remembered. Choosing is still how we love. If these ideas stay with you after the video ends, keep opening the next door.
At golden hour they walk, slowly, her arm through her granddaughter's, to the courtyard. The real one. It is smaller than 1969. The way every return to place is smaller. She stands where the canopy folded, and she doesn't say anything, and neither does the girl, and the machine that rebuilt this place isn't here, and that is exactly right. Some visits are for the territory, not the map.
Watch what the last light of a day actually does. It doesn't vanish. It hands itself over to windows, to lamps, to kettles, to the night shift, to a green dot in a dark kitchen. Light is a relay. It has been passed hand to hand since the first fire in the first doorway, and tonight it passes through this house on its way to morning.
Night then. The kettle files its last report. Amma sleeps in a house that knows her breathing. Her daughter walks into the ward and lifts the watch. The dispatcher sits down before the country's pulse. 50.00. The whole season is awake around her bed, and she sleeps like a country with a good grid.
Last argument of the season, and I'll keep my voice down. Here's what still frightens me, quietly. When the archive outlives all of us, when every day is kept whether anyone chooses it or not, I wonder if the choosing muscle atrophies. Why decide what a life meant when you can keep the whole life? A civilization that never has to choose might slowly forget that it loved some days more than others. The archive doesn't kill memory. It might kill the wallet photograph.
And I'd answer, look at the porch. She had the whole haul of days, and she chose the rain anyway. Choosing survived the archive the way singing survived recording. We didn't stop singing, we stopped having to. But I'll give you this, and it's the season's last concession. It survived in her because she learned it before the hall existed. Whether the children of the archive learn it too, that one we can't settle. And we're out of mornings. This was the last one. So we'll leave it where the season leaves everything, at a window filling with light. The deep hour then, 3 a.m, you know it now. The manufactured silence. The pulse held steady. The green dot in the dark kitchen. This is where the season would end, if seasons ended politely. But you were promised a last light, and honesty is the house style. So, weeks after this day, on an ordinary morning, the kettle waited at 7, and the dot stayed dark.
Amma died the way she lived the long afternoon, asleep at home, in a house that knew her breathing. The machines noticed first. The people were there within minutes. Both halves of that sentence matter. That was the deal the whole season described, and it held.
The archive kept her 30,000 mornings. The family kept the rain, the shoe, the way she said his name, a recipe nobody can get right, and a kettle nobody could bring themselves to unplug. The green dot is on again, if you're wondering. The teenager did that. Some lights you keep on not to watch over someone, but to remember that someone once watched over you.
Seven mornings. A Tuesday that was secretly the most important morning in history. The machines that learned to listen. The distance that stopped matching. The vigil that couldn't be automated. The rain that went back into a wedding. The night held by strangers. And a porch where an 81-year-old woman looked at everything the machines could keep and told us, in 5 words, what humans are for.
So collect the season's sentences one last time quietly. Memory doesn't store the day. It stores what the day meant. Distance was the thing that made together possible, and stopped being the price. The watching can be automated. The vigil cannot. Machines hold the frequency. People hold the night. And the new light, the one this whole season was named for, it was never the machine's light. It was ours. They just handed it back.
One small thing before you sleep tonight. Your devices remembered everything about today. Every minute is already in the hall. Choose one. One moment you'll carry yourself in the wallet where the machines can't do it for you. That choice is the whole season. That choice is the door. If this journey changed how you see the world, walking with us further helps the series reach more curious minds. That's all the button is.
This was the brand door. This was the new light. Thank you for walking all 7 mornings with us. The kettle's at 7. The door's never locked.